It's been 20 years. 20 years since Doctor Who returned to our screens, so what better time to look back at the 2005 revival's legacy? The impact of the modern series can be gauged in everything from Time Wars to Timeless Children to the very production techniques used to bring the show to life. Doctor Who has changed and grown in so many different ways over the last 2 decades, cementing this hammy little sci-fi show as a populist television drama. But before we dive in, happy birthday Doctor Who, happy birthday Doctor Who, happy birthday Doctor Who! Oh my god, I feel old. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferry for Who Culture, and this is 10 ways modern Doctor Who changed the show forever. Number 10. A consistent style of regeneration. When Christopher Eccleston regenerated into David Tennant at the climax of The Parting of the Ways, it established a style for regeneration that Doctor Who has continued to follow. The heroic stance, famous last words, golden light, and explosive transformation established in The Parting of the Ways was more dynamic and more modern than any of the regenerations we'd seen in the classic era. Classic regenerations typically involved the departing actor lying down and filming their final moments before swapping places with their successor. This was a simple way to achieve the fade effect that signalled the transition from one Doctor to the next, and it served the show well for decades. However, while the way that these regenerations were filmed was consistent, the in-fiction process wasn't. Sometimes the Doctor would just change, but other times they would get a nudge from other Time Lords or future phantoms of themselves. Some Doctors would experience nightmarish hallucinations of their old friends and enemies, while others wouldn't. The process was stripped back and refined for the modern era, with the simple image of golden light emanating from a hand becoming a more iconic signifier of the end than ominous figures swathed in bandages or the floating heads of friends and foes. Number 9. The Doctor is a more romantic hero. In 1996, the Doctor Who TV movie gave us a more romantic Doctor in the form of Paul McGann, and there was outrage from the purists. But rather than placate those purists for his 2005 revival, Russell T Davies doubled down on the idea of the Doctor as a more lovey-dovey hero. There were hints of this during the first Christopher Eccleston series, as he flirts with Tree Lady Jabe and becomes jealous of Captain Jack Harkness. The idea of Doctor Who having a romantic lead then became even more pronounced when David Tennant was cast as the 10th Doctor, opposite Billie Piper as returning companion Rose Tyler. The Doctor's relationship with Rose was something we'd never seen before in Doctor Who, and their tear-jerking goodbye broke the hearts of millions back in 2006. And this was on top of the 10th Doctor snogging basically anything with a pulse. The love story between the Doctor and Rose established that our lead character could indeed fall in love and get their hearts broken, and it's an idea that Doctor Who has returned to time and time again. Through the relationships with Rose, River Song, Yasmin Khan, and Rogue, modern Doctor Who has firmly established that the Doctor is no stranger to matters of the hearts, giving us new dimensions to the character that were unexplored in the classic era. It probably helped that they brought in Casanova to play the next Doctor back in 2005. Number 8. The CGI revolution. Digital effects were in their infancy towards the end of Doctor Who's classic era, and were largely too expensive to achieve on a tiny BBC budget, though the bubble traps in Time and the Rani and the Sylvester McCoy title sequence were early indicators of what was to come. It would be another 15 years or so before Doctor Who properly embraced CGI, once the likes of Jurassic Park, Gollum in The Lord of the Rings, and the Star Wars prequels had shown that was possible to achieve. Though Doctor Who hardly had the budget of those epic Hollywood productions, the brilliant work of the recently closed VFX house The Mill did give us alien worlds like we'd never seen before in Doctor Who. From the moment the Doctor and Rose look out on the expanding sun in The End of the World, we knew that Doctor Who had changed forever. And it wasn't just alien spaceships or planets that were achieved via CGI. Aliens were too. The Reapers from Father's Day were purely CGI creations, while other monsters like the Daleks and Slitheen were augmented with CGI to increase their numbers or make them look more threatening. While CGI didn't always cohere with its practical surroundings, it was clear that this was a brand new world for Doctor Who, and would only improve the show going forward. Who would have thought in 2005 that we'd eventually get something as technically ambitious as Wild Blue Yonder, Dot and Bubble, or the living cartoon Mr. Ring-a-Ding in the upcoming Season 2. Who knows what crazy effects the show will be pulling off in another 20 years, and we have that initial leap made by the 2005 revival to thank for it. Number 7. Christmas specials. Classic Doctor Who did occasionally air on or around Christmas Day, and it did have its own seasonal episode in 1965. However, it was never a permanent fixture of the BBC's Christmas schedule in the way that Morecambe and Wise or The Two Ronnies were. All that changed in 2005, when The Christmas Invasion aired on Christmas Day, introducing David Tennant as the 10th Doctor and fundamentally changing how Doctor Who was perceived by a more general audience. For 13 years, Doctor Who became an integral part of the BBC's Christmas Day programming. It was an incredible reflection of the 2005 revival's overnight success and of the esteem in which Doctor Who was now held. Much like those old Morecambe and Wise Christmas shows, many of the Doctor Who seasonal specials were marketed on their special guests. From Catherine Tate to Kylie Minogue to Sir Michael Gambon, their involvement elevated proceedings and appealed to a broader audience than your average episode. There are no doubt countless people across the UK for whom the Doctor Who Christmas special was their only experience of the show, and if killer Christmas trees or flying sharks don't paint an accurate picture of Doctor Who, then what does? Number 6. The Doctor can be anyone. Though the idea of a female Doctor was actually first suggested during the classic series, then female Time Lords like Romana and the Rani always proved that it was possible, one of the biggest and most important changes to Doctor Who of the past 20 years is that it established that the lead character can be played by absolutely anyone. It's kind of a ridiculous question if you think about it. If an alien time traveller can completely change their physical body, why would they always choose that of a British character actor? Stephen Moffat spent a lot of time laying the groundwork for such a transformation when he cast Michelle Gomez as Missy and gender flipped the General, both dress rehearsals for the bigger change coming up the track. Chris Chibnall's decision to give us the first canonical female Doctor, Joanna Lumley, was met with support and controversy in equal measure. But all it did was open up the pool of exciting, talented actors and actresses who can now fill the role. Doctor Who was always headed in this direction, marking yet another huge way the 2005 revival has impacted the very fabric of the show. Number 5. An Americanized approach. The structure of modern Doctor Who owes a huge debt to the cult American network shows of the 90s and early 2000s. In Russell T Davies's original pitch document for the 2005 revival, he draws direct links with US television and how they structure their shows around Sweeps Week, the period in which networks pull out all the stops in an effort to boost advertising rates. He explained, 13 episodes should be divided into 7 single-episode stories and 3 two-part stories. The two-parters should earn their size like American Sweeps episodes, and the stories should be strong, well, obviously. This combination of Monster of the Week and big event episodes had defined US television for decades. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The X-Files, and countless other influential US shows adopted this approach, and Buffy was even mentioned by Russell in his original pitch as one of the shows he was inspired by. This was a far pacier approach to telling Doctor Who stories than we'd had in the classic era, which would have dedicated 4, sometimes even 10 weeks to telling a single story. By adopting that American, quippy, fast-paced 45-minute model for Doctor Who, Russell T Davies ensured a crossover appeal that fostered a bigger US audience than the show had enjoyed previously. And no doubt, this was a big reason the modern series has stuck around for more than 20 years. Number 4. Connected stories and series arcs. Another element of American shows that Russell T Davies wanted to emulate in his new Doctor Who was the idea of the mythology episode, as he again explains in his original pitch document. The best US shows, Buffy, Angel, Smallville, have a mythology story which ticks away in the background, climaxing in the final episodes. In his original pitch, Russell T Davies was referring to the Doctor's status as the last of the Time Lords, a mythology that would form the backbone of his 2005 to 2010 tenure, climaxing in his final special, The End of Time. On top of this, each season had its own individual mythology story. Why were the words Bad Wolf following the Doctor and Rose around in time and space? What was going to happen when the Doctor finally encountered Torchwood? Who was Mr. Saxon? Each of these story arcs gave us a big bad for the season finale, such as the Daleks, the Cybermen, or the Master, which again was a direct lift from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was also largely a new concept for Doctor Who. We'd previously had the Key to Time season and the Black Guardian trilogy, but these were loose framing devices for a run of episodes rather than intricately plotted mythology stories. Doctor Who's embracing of arc-based storytelling only tightened with the arrival of Stephen Moffat, who arguably mastered the format and took it to the next level with the years-spanning mystery of the cracks in time. Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey was a wee bit of an understatement. Number 3. Fleshed out companions. While there are definite exceptions like Ace, Joe Grant, Sarah Jane Smith, or Ian and Barbara, the characterization of the average companion in the classic era was quite paper thin. The 1980s were particularly bad for this, with Tegan and Adric rarely being afforded the chance to step out of their air hostess or boy genius archetypes. Rose Tyler, on the other hand, was a multi-dimensional character who was far more than a companion to the Doctor. The dynamic outlined for the Doctor and Rose in Russell T Davies's pitch document was as follows. They need each other and complete each other. He's got a mind full of time and space, she's entirely down to earth. A perfect match. That's as true for Rose Tyler as it is for the countless companions who followed her. Maintaining that connection to earth allowed us to understand the companions better by introducing us to the homes and the families they were leaving behind. This multi-layered approach to character also gave us more engaging TARDIS teen dynamics. For example, Martha's unrequited love for the Doctor and her struggles to live up to the ghost of Rose Tyler informed so many of her stories in a way that Tegan's job as an air hostess just never did. That's not to say that every companion in the modern series is a three-dimensional work of art, but giving them more of a spotlight has only made Doctor Who richer, adding a firm, relatable anchor to all those alien and off-world shenanigans. Number 2. The Doctor's new origin story. Arguably the biggest change to Doctor Who over the past 20 years was the introduction of a secret Doctor between Paul McGann and Christopher Eccleston. But arguably even bigger than that was the brand new origin story that was given to the Doctor in The Timeless Children. The episode revealed that the Doctor was no longer from the planet Gallifrey, but was a mysterious alien from another world who'd been taken in by the Time Lords. Not only that, but their DNA provided the building blocks for the Time Lords' regenerative powers. It was a huge revelation that made us rethink the Doctor's outsider status on Gallifrey. Chris Chibnall's dark new origin for the Doctor was not without its controversy, which constituted a significant portion of the fan reaction. And I'm not going to lie, understandably so. But over 5 years on, has it really changed the show that much? Not at all. In that sense, you could argue it was a bit pointless, but it has allowed for a few new storytelling opportunities, such as Russell T Davies using the Doctor's adoption as a means for him to connect with companion Ruby Sunday. As for whether the Doctor will ever find their way back home, well, we'll just have to watch this space. And time. Number 1. The Time War. The classic series was always quite cagey around the Doctor's backstory, largely settling for teases and innuendo about why he left Gallifrey. Russell T Davies, on the other hand, conceived a tangible, sizable backstory for his Doctor in the 2005 revival, and it's one that continues to influence the show. Russell T Davies' frankly genius idea was to reveal that, in the interim period between the TV movie and Rose, the Doctor had been engaged in a devastating war between the Time Lords and the Daleks. Not only that, but on one bleak day, he was forced to destroy his own people to save the rest of the universe. This was the inciting incident for the last of the Time Lords mythos that Russell T Davies references in his original pitch document. It's got a heftier dramatic hook than the mystery of why the First Doctor and Susan fled Gallifrey, and it had the additional benefit of reshaping the Doctor's relationship with the Daleks and the Master. It was also a brilliant way to break down the Doctor's character at the start of the series, before building him back up again through his friendship with Rose. It was such a great innovation for the show that it's hard to believe that Russell, as mentioned in his original pitch, was essentially making it up on the spot. However, he did it, and it worked beautifully. 2 decades on, and it's still going strong. Happy birthday, modern Doctor Who. Here's to the next 20 years. That's everything. Folks, yous are awesome, you're wonderful. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and please make sure you're following us on the various socials. Nice and easy, we're at Who Culture. I am at Sean Ferrick, I'm easy to find. Until I see you again, keep things wibbly wobbly. You are awesome, you are wonderful, and have a slice of birthday cake to celebrate Doctor Who. Thanks very much.